Thank you, UFCW. Honestly, I can't think of a better way to finish the week than standing with the brothers and sisters of UFCW. And I am grateful for everything you do every single day. Processing, preparing, serving the food our families eat, selling the clothes we buy for our children and ourselves, filling the prescriptions that keep us healthy, keeping everything from our grocery stores to our pharmacies running, which means you keep our economy running too. So today, today I want to say something you don't hear enough. Thank you. Mark is right. Your president and I have known each other a long time, all the way back to Arkansas. As some of you know, he started his career in a store in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. And it's been with great pride that I've watched him go from strength to strength, position to position, to become your president. So it's a personally very rewarding experience for me to be introduced by him today to all of you. I want to thank Esther Lopez, your Secretary-Treasurer. And I have to thank another good friend, your Executive Vice President, Stu Applebaum. And I can look out here and see both UFCW members from New York who I worked with, and as your senator, and then a number of members who I have met over the years, particularly over this past year during this campaign. I am so proud to have earned your endorsement earlier this year, because from raising the minimum wage to comprehensive immigration reform to at last getting equal pay for women, your fights are my fights. Tell you, when I'm at a big rally and I see those gold shirts out there, it really makes me feel good. I will always be grateful for your help in this campaign. You've knocked on doors, you've opened up your union halls. I was at Local 324 in Orange County, California just yesterday. You have helped to turn out the vote here in Nevada and across the country. When I was at the Union Hall yesterday in California, I had a great chance to meet with a lot of your members there. It would be political malpractice if I didn't say, hey, we've got the California primary, the New Mexico primary, we've got Montana, North, South Dakota, we've got New Jersey, we've got Puerto Rico still to go. So I'm going to be looking for those gold shirts and looking for your help as we finish off those contests on June the 7th. You know, like a lot of great things in our country, our campaign is union built, including my terrific labor outreach director, UFCW's own Nikki Budzinski. Now, Nikki's gone with me to a lot of different union meetings and conventions, and first time she's had on a union shirt. Because that's her union, and you've had my back, and I'll always have yours. You know, as I've traveled across the country, I've talked with fast food workers, pharmacists, retail employees, food processors, and I've heard over and over again, there has never been more at stake for working families in America than there is right now. This election should be about knocking down all the barriers that hold families back, building ladders of opportunity in their place, coming together to get incomes rising, creating more good jobs that provide dignity and pride. I'm the granddaughter of a factory worker who operated a loom at the Scranton Lace Works in Pennsylvania. My father put everything he had into a really small fabric printing shop in his small business in Chicago. My mother was out on her own working as a housemaid at the age of 14. So I grew up respecting the dignity and hard work of what it takes to provide a solid middle-class life. And I have always believed that when unions are strong, America is strong. Unions, all of you and those who came before, who fought for the right to organize and bargain for wages and benefits, helped to build the strongest middle class in the history of the world. You have been on the front lines of the fight for affordable health care, safe working conditions, fair, predictable schedules, and fair wages. The American labor movement pioneered the basic bargain that made our country great. If you work hard and do your part, you should be able to get ahead and stay ahead. So I want you to know that I understand you're not just fighting for your members, you're fighting for all working families. And I am proud to be in the trenches fighting alongside you. Because in addition to strong unions helping to build a strong middle class, strong families are the backbone of our country. You know, as well as anybody, how hard it is to successfully organize a union and how critical it is that workers succeed. Before coming out to speak to you, I had a chance to meet with a few of your members who are fighting to organize their workplaces to be able to bargain for better wages and benefits. Like Elisa Gonzalez, she's a full-time student in addition to representing her co-workers in contract negotiations since March. Or Flora Castaneda, who's worked for 12 years as a cashier in Los Angeles and has spent the last 2 of them fighting for paid sick days, higher wages, and the respect she and her colleagues deserve. For Alyssa and Flora and every worker who wants to organize and bargain collectively, this election is a make or break election. Donald Trump is an urgent threat to our rights and to our country. 2 years ago, Donald Trump personally signed a contract with a union-busting firm to break up Unite Here's organizing campaign at his hotel in Las Vegas. I was proud to join those workers on the picket line last fall. And I'm even prouder because they overcame Trump's intimidation campaign and were officially certified as a union this year. So to everyone who has faced hostile management, a hostile legislature, a union-busting governor, or all three, help is on the way. We are going to defend the right to organize and protect collective bargaining. I know UFCW recently marked your 101st organizing campaign. 90% of your organizing campaigns have succeeded. That is a winning margin no matter what you're doing. So I want you to keep it up, and here's what I want to do. Let's make the jobs of the future good union jobs that cannot be outsourced. Let's all say what we all know: right to work is wrong for workers and wrong for America. Because I know, thanks to the determination and sacrifice of working people all across our country and the leadership of President Obama, we have worked our way back from the worst financial crisis in a generation. Now, I don't think President Obama gets the credit he deserves for saving our economy from the mess he inherited from the prior Republican administration. But I know, and you know, our work is far from finished. I've talked to so many struggling families. Corporate profits keep going up, but so do everyday living expenses. Paychecks for most working people still aren't growing the way that they should. Too many families worry about how to keep the lights on and the rent paid. Parents run themselves ragged, trying to balance responsibilities at home and at work. So we've got to do more to raise families' incomes. We can start by raising the federal minimum wage. And let's continue to support local efforts to go even higher. I am proud to stand with workers and unions across the country in the fight for $15 and their own union for fast food workers and other low-paid workers. You see, I have this old-fashioned idea that every worker everywhere in America deserves a fair wage and a voice on the job. So let's also fight for paid family leave and make sure that every woman gets equal pay, not just those with union contracts or government jobs. You know, when a woman is paid unfairly, that doesn't just shortchange her, it shortchanges her whole family. It's just wrong. A lot of you know who Lilly Ledbetter is, right? You know, she started off working in a factory in Alabama. She worked her way up. She became a supervisor, the only woman supervisor. She got good evaluations and performance reviews. She thought everything was going fine. Years later, she learned she had been paid 40% less than the male supervisors doing the same job. The same job. You know, when Lilly found out, she was dumbfounded. Nobody said anything to her, but you know, under the law as it exists still today, you try to find out what somebody else makes, you can get fired or otherwise retaliated against. She never crossed her mind to say to one of her male counterparts, "Hey, Joe, how much are you making?" Never crossed her mind. She trusted she was being paid for the job she did. I was with her a few weeks ago in Pennsylvania, and she said, "You know, my husband and I worked hard for everything we got in life." She's now a widow. She said, "The unequal treatment that I experienced is still playing itself out. Her Social Security is 40% less than it would have been. Her pension is 40% less than it should have been." So this is not a small matter. If you have a mother, a wife, a sister, a daughter, and we all have at least one of those, this is an issue for all of us. And I'm just not going to quit until we open the doors wide and we have transparency about what people are making so that nobody is discriminated against, not just men versus women. No American, not on the basis of race or ethnicity or religion or immigration or anything else, should be discriminated against. And then another thing we've got to do, and unions are my strongest partners in this, we've got to encourage more employers to embrace family-friendly policies. I was just talking, as I said, to some of the workers who are organizing. A lot of them don't know their schedules from day to day. How do they handle childcare? How do they keep that doctor appointment for themselves or their child? How do they go to the school meeting? You know, they mark it down, they put it in their phone or on a piece of paper so that they can be there, and then all of a sudden they get called and said, "Oh no, you got to come to work. You got to do, you know, work tomorrow." Now, UFCW has been at the forefront of this fight in California and across the country. It is hard enough today. I think it's harder. It's harder to balance family and work than it used to be. We don't need to be making it impossible by not even telling workers how many hours they're going to get each week and what those hours are, or canceling shifts at the last minute, or moving schedules around so much that you can't plan for anything. That just puts such a burden. It's painful, it's hurtful. You ought to be able to go to that doctor's appointment or that parent-teacher conference at school. Now, when I talk about all the ways we're going to work together, the UFCW and me, to support working families, Donald Trump likes to say, "I'm playing the woman card." Well, here we are in Las Vegas, right? If fighting for equal pay, paid family leave, and affordable child care is playing the woman card, then deal me in. A winning hand, my friends. Now, it's no surprise that Donald Trump has a very different take on all of this. At a time when families are struggling to pay for child care and so much else, Donald Trump actually stood on a debate stage and argued that Americans are being paid too much. He's talked about getting rid of the national minimum wage altogether. And now we know something else. We know he actually was rooting for the housing crash that cost 5 million families their homes and decimated the economy here in Nevada and parts of California and elsewhere. So I called him out about it. We found video. He couldn't exactly deny that. We posted it. So what did he say in response? He bragged about it. He said, and I quote, "This is the kind of thinking our country needs." He said, profiting off working families getting kicked out of their homes and losing their jobs would be, and I quote, a good result. So now we know what a good result is to Donald Trump. He gets his, and you get hurt. He says this kind of behavior is okay because he's just a businessman. Our country is full of honorable men and women who run businesses and don't take pleasure in other people's misery. They're showing how you can do well and do good at the same time, but not Donald Trump. And that's not all. I hear every day from families who are afraid of what a Donald Trump presidency would mean for millions of immigrants living in America. A few months ago, here in Las Vegas, I met a 10-year-old girl named Carla Ortiz. I was meeting with a small group of immigrants, some undocumented, some in mixed status families, namely some were legal and residents or citizens and others were undocumented. Carla started to cry as she told me her parents had a letter of deportation and she was scared they would be taken away from her. Her parents were with her. They're both hardworking people working right here in Las Vegas. In a lot of ways, Carla's a typical bright fifth grader. She loves science and experiments and math and Charlotte's Web. But she leaves for school every day terrified that her mom and or dad won't be there when she gets home. Her parents actually had to take her to a heart specialist who explained that living in constant fear was making her heart beat dangerously fast. So when Donald Trump talks about deporting 11 million immigrants, he's talking about ripping apart families like Carla's. He's talking about sending what he calls a deportation force to schools and workplaces and homes to round up moms and dads, grandparents, and even children. I want you to think about that deportation force for a minute, where we would have police, paramilitary, whatever his deportation force consists of, raiding homes and workplaces across America. We all know somebody who would be at risk of that, don't we? But we all would be at risk of what that would do to our values and who we are as a people. When Donald Trump calls immigrants rapists and murderers, he's talking about families like Carla's and people who work in the places you represent. We must reject his wrong and dangerous vision for America. We have to stand up for hardworking American families, and that includes hardworking immigrant families. As a very lucky grandmother, I know that moms and dads and grandparents should be preparing their kids for the future, not for the possibility that their families could be broken up at any minute. In my first 100 days as president, I will introduce comprehensive immigration reform. And if Congress refuses to pass it, I won't give up. I'll build on President Obama's executive actions and keep going. That's why I keep saying this is one of the most consequential elections in our lifetimes. The only thing standing between Donald Trump and the Oval Office is all of us. And I mean all of us. We're coming to the end of the Democratic primaries. I applaud Senator Sanders and his supporters for challenging us to get unaccountable money out of politics and take on the crisis of income inequality. And I look forward to coming together to unify our party, to stop Donald Trump, and to move our country forward. Because there is much more that unites us than divides us. And we are going up against a candidate who will say anything, do anything to take us backwards on every issue and value we care about. You know, it's been said for many years, the White House provides a bully pulpit to fight for working families. But the last thing we need is a bully in the White House. And nobody knows better than a union that the only way to stand up to a bully is to do it together. That's what unions are all about. No matter what happens, you have each other's backs. You lift each other up. You leave no one behind. You're building a better future, not just for yourselves, but for hardworking people from all walks of life. And that is America at our best. The lesson of the American labor movement, the lesson of America's history, through good times and hard times, is that we are stronger together. So it's time for all of us to unite around the values that brought your unions together more than a century ago. The values that inspired generations of Americans to organize, march, and vote for progress. America's greatness, because don't you forget it, we are great. We are great. But our greatness is not a birthright. Every generation has to earn it and has to fight for it. And now it's up to us. We are fighting for an America where every family gets the support they need and the respect they deserve, where hardworking parents can sleep easy because they have that basic security that comes from knowing they can give their kids what their kids need, where we break down barriers instead of building walls, where workers are supported, not scapegoated. And yes, where parents can tell their daughters, you can be anything you want to be, even President of the United States of America.